G'day and welcome to the facelifted CarExpert podcast. Now you may have noticed a couple of things have changed, most notably your host, me. I'm Sean Lander, and if you don't recognise me, you might have seen me before in the reflection of a tow bar or a window. I'm half of the video team that makes the CarExpert videos on YouTube, and myself, along with Igor, who's doing all the filming today, we'd like to welcome you to the brand new podcast. The other big change is you'll note that now we are a video podcast, so if you're listening to the podcast, pause it, head over to YouTube and check it out there. Give us a like, a subscribe, a comment, leave us a review. But we're going to get straight into it. And today I've got the biggest guest I could possibly get for our very first podcast, my bosses, Alborz and Paul. Welcome, boys.
Good to have you, mate.
Big just in terms of title, not in stature.
No, yes.
Well, no. I'm wearing
Well, Tony's not here today. So.
This is fun.
Yeah, so welcome to our new podcast. Paul, this must be different for you. You're not hosting.
Yes.
Something new?
He's not the centre of attention.
No, well, look, we thought we'd try something a little bit different. You can still listen to this as an audio podcast on the regular channels, but we thought we'd try some video. We're going to rotate guests and stuff like that. But we're going to try and make you static, so to speak.
Yes.
I'm just glad that we have an alternative if you get hit by a bus now.
Well, I have been doing a lot of picking up his Raptor and dropping it off to get repairs done. So he's been grooming me to take his place.
Grooming.
It's just grooming. Today that word's not as funny as it used to be.
I think we should get stuck into it. So this is going to be a very relaxed sort of thing. So we're just going to chat a few topics and we're open to any suggestions. If you guys like what you hear, if you guys have anything you want us to talk about, just leave a comment and let us know. But we'll get stuck into it. Paul and Alborz, this week you guys ducked down to Geelong and checked out a local manufacturer called Carbon Revolution. Alborz, do you want to tell us a bit about what they or who they are?
Yeah, look, we actually came across this business pre-COVID. So 2019, they make carbon fibre wheels. And they're probably the only company in the world that actually can produce these carbon fibre wheels to a standard that can be used properly in a mass production facility. And obviously they've improved substantially since then. They've listed, and Paul and I are actually investors in that business. We've lost a lot of money in that business.
Yes.
So their product is amazing, but their financial record has not been fantastic. But from an Australian innovation perspective, and we just went and saw the new mega line they've done there. It is absolutely fascinating what they've done. It's incredible.
Yeah, so they've got some interesting stats. So they were founded in 2007 in Geelong. They've produced over 60,000 wheels, and they make wheels for
Which really isn't that much, by the way.
No, but
Well, you divide it by 4.
Yeah, it's quite a few for a little company, and especially for they are carbon fibre wheels, so they're quite hard to make. They're expensive to make, but they make wheels for. I've got a list here. There's Shelby GT350, the Mustang Shelby GT350, the Ferrari 488 Pista, the new Corvette Z06, the new Range Rover Sport, and they've got supply deals with Ferrari and I think Renault Sport. They make them for as well, so they're not
Doing it for the new Mustang Dark Horse as well.
Yeah, wow.
And then there's actually the biggest part of their business soon will be, and I'm sorry if this sounds like a marketing pitch, but I love this from an engineering standpoint because I'm an engineer.
A civil engineer at best.
I like what they've done here, and when you actually get to tour the factory, it is incredible how they take this yarn of carbon fibre and then turn it into a wheel that can do 300 k's an hour.
It literally comes as like a fabric.
Yeah,
it's the best way to describe it. And somehow that goes from these balls of carbon weave into wheels through this whole process. And sort of watching it, they wouldn't let us take any photos or film it, of course. But it's fascinating. It takes a while to make a wheel. There's how many hours? It was 15 hours or something. It was a ridiculous amount of hours. And that's gone way better than it used to be.
Yeah, it used to be around 30 or 40 hours. So through those production efficiencies, they've been able to bring it down. The interesting thing is they're saying a lot of their big business now is going to come from electric vehicles. And not because of the reasons you think it's going to come. It's actually at the upper end. So where a vehicle in the States has more and more features added into it and it's electric, it gets bumped into the next size class, which means the manufacturer then gets penalties for the carbon emissions of their vehicles. And it offsets those by producing smaller electric vehicles. But if you can reduce the weight of some of these larger vehicles, it means you can bump them down a bracket and then still take advantage of having that weight saving, less unsprung mass.
And on some of these cars, on a 22-inch wheel, replacing it alloys with carbon, it's 50 kilos of saving.
Yeah, so they had I had a quick look onto their website last night. They had one example, the new Ferrari 296 GTB. If you have 20-inch Carbon Rev wheels all around, they save 32 kilograms on that car. And a car like that is all about weight saving. So yeah, it makes total sense.
Except Ferrari charged, I think, $65,000.
Oh, is that all?
Someone's
You
making
know
a
what's
bit
so
of money.
funny is they build them in Geelong, they send them to Italy, and then they put it on the car and then send it back to Australia if you buy one here.
And then also the raw material gets imported into Geelong. They build the wheels and the wheels go out and then
come back.
Yeah, it was like when Holden used to manufacture the V6 engines for Saabs. So you would do it in Elizabeth or Port Melbourne here, wherever it was, and then it would go to Sweden. I think they were still manufacturing Saabs there. Then the Saabs would come back to Australia with the engine in them. So
Australia Post works with the same methodology.
well,
I think.
yeah,
Yes.
send something from Melbourne to
Yes.
Geelong and it goes via Brisbane or
Yes.
Darwin.
So this is interesting. I think the whole thing with Carbon Rev is really interesting. The fact that they actually got a revolutionary manufacturing method here, because traditionally,
name.
yeah, it is funny that traditionally you'd manufacture a wheel from a solid piece of aluminium, and a jig would dig a hole through it, and then you carve out a wheel. But this is actually layering fabric
layers
over
and
and
layers
over.
and
Yeah.
layers, and then they're heating it, cooling it to produce the final product. And then it was funny, the example they had for the Z06, you can buy the naked wheel, which is just carbon fibre on the wheel, or you can buy the painted one. And Corvette charges more for the naked carbon weave, but it costs more to produce the
No, it's
painted
the other way
one.
around. The naked weave, you're right, sorry, the naked
Yeah.
weave was more expensive.
Yeah.
The one they painted was cheaper, even though it cost more to make.
Yeah, because
You're
you've
right,
got to paint
sorry.
it.
How does that work?
Yeah. Well,
It's
the
just-
reason was that
Yeah.
they expected Carbon Rev to have a lot of issues with the front facer, so there would be like imperfections in the weave, so that way they could just paint them and still be a carbon wheel, but they're all perfect. So they ended up selling a product that they would charge less for, that would cost more to make. But you know, like if you think about it holistically, like carbon wheels make so much more sense. Like they're actually super strong, and everyone's really worried about like damages and things. And it's actually not like that. They've got a front sort of face on them that is easily repairable. In fact, replaceable from my understanding. And they're so strong that you have to give it to my wife to really screw it up, right? Like they're
Or Tony.
or Tony. Yes.
I think Tony could really destroy a set.
Yes, he has been known. Although I am still the only person, I believe, at Car Advice and CarExpert that's damaged a carbon wheel. Not their wheels, that Brabham BT92.
And by damage, you mean disintegrated.
Look, I avoided hitting a cyclist, and in retrospect, maybe that wasn't such a great idea. But
I think you go to jail for that these days.
it was in France, so I don't know.
but maybe it's less.
They've got a lot of issues at the moment.
They might have been a protest about it.
Yeah.
Might cut this bit out, I think.
Yes.
So these guys are far from the only company in Australia that are manufacturing automobile components. You know, obviously in Brisbane, Volvo still makes trucks. PACCAR make trucks. I mean, there's a lot of that sort of stuff. But you know, since we've lost.
Also got
Ford-
the EV charging company in
Yeah.
Brisbane.
Yeah,
Brisbane's
true.
the place to
Yeah.
be.
So
Unless you dislike traffic, in which case you don't want to
or
be
humidity.
anywhere near it.
But you know, since we stopped manufacturing Falcons and Commodores, it seems that manufacturing has actually boomed here to a degree.
It has, but just based on what we've heard from the Carbon Rev guys, it is very hard to manufacture in Australia. Wages
expensive.
are high. You've got unions. Logistics are hard. You know, Geelong is in the middle of nowhere globally and very south of nowhere. So all of those aspects make manufacturing in Australia hard, and the government just doesn't support anyone. Like they might throw a bone away every now and then, but they just don't care for really supporting manufacturing here, which is incredibly disappointing in my opinion, because we have some incredibly skilled people and we just don't get to use any of them.
I mean, I know we see this when we go shoot at our proving ground, which used to be the old Holden proving ground, and the guys that work there, you know, they're sort of just left to rot, unfortunately, which is sad because there's so much experience and talent in
Is
those
that
people.
still owned by VinFast?
Yes, technically.
Right. Is VinFast still a thing?
Yes.
Technically.
Okay, just clarifying.
We think. We're not
Yes.
sure. We haven't seen
I still
anything
see
in a
the
while.
sign on the highway here in Melbourne when you drive past.
That's it.
So I wonder what they do in that office.
Oh no, well that's gone now. That's
Oh,
shut
that's
down.
gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the signs
They're
are
waiting
just
for the
there for
lease to end.
So
Yeah, the lease is
so
ended
David
and-
Beckham's not coming around.
I think he forgot that he was associated with them. Actually, the story behind that is, I think we were at the Paris Motor Show, and all of a sudden, like no one was at the VinFast stand. All of a sudden, there was this enormous crowd, and we're like, "What the hell's going on there?" So we walked over, and then randomly, David Beckham walks out, and he goes, "Hey, I'm here with the new VinFast 7. Here it is. And that was that. And then he walked off. And I think the rumor
I think it was like $3 million
yeah.
they paid him just to show up for like 20 minutes. I reckon.
Wow. Just had a lot of money to spend.
But hey,
Not
we
much to show
still
for it.
remember it.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't know what VinFast was then.
Do you know what it is now?
No, but I knew that David Beckham was
It's
so
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's Vietnamese cars.
Yeah.
Sort of, maybe. We're not really sure. We've never seen one. So, but what we have seen is a massive change in the sales charts. And this month's VFAX actually brought kind of a surprise out of the woods. The Tesla Model Y became the second highest selling car of the month, outdoing the Ford Ranger. To find out why, we're going to switch over to our Model Y correspondent, Paul Maric.
Oh, yes.
Owner of a
Hello.
Model Y. Paul, can you tell us why?
Look, well, I'll tell you something. I am, I guess, the car whisperer. Every car that I buy ends up becoming a top seller. So there was the Ford Ranger, then there's the Tesla Model Y. What can I say?
He said the Ford Ranger is not the top seller.
It was very briefly.
It's third. I mean, but we shouldn't joke too much about this Model Y thing because I've got some numbers here of the cars that were sold. The Tesla Model Y sold 5,560 cars in June, which outdid all of the cars that Mitsubishi sold, Volkswagen sold, Subaru sold, GWM sold. So their one model outdid all of those cars, which is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, obviously supply shortages are dwindling a little bit. It's not such a
Yeah, but
problem anymore.
also
the price,
they
man.
keep gutting the price, and it's now so cheap to buy one, especially if you're in Queensland. They need some incentive for someone to move there, but they're giving such big discounts. that it-
$6,000.
Yeah, I mean, a base Model 3 now is 55 grand drive away with the incentives. I mean, that is a dirt cheap price. A Model Y isn't much more expensive. And if you discount the fact that it's electric, it's actually good value for money as an SUV. Throw in the
Yeah,
fact that
if
it
you
is
don't
electric.
like any comfort features, terrible ride, no head-up display.
Yeah, you
but-
bought one, didn't you, boss?
I had one for a few days. Yes. But you
What
know,
happened to
it's,
it?
it's actually it's a point that Paul was making. I bought mine for almost 80K, and now I reckon that car would be, high 60s, low 70s. So it's dropped in price massively, and I think it's actually a good buy now. If they can fix the suspension. Well, I bought one, and then my wife, who is not very fond of electric cars, drove it on the first charge and then left it when it ran out of charge. And I had to explain to her that it wasn't a disposable appliance, that they can actually be recharged. But we didn't actually ever recharge it. I literally sold it, and in the ad, it said never recharged. I thought I was very proud of that. It's like the people that have a convertible that say never driven in the rain. I was like, never recharged.
Yeah.
Did they come with a tow truck to pick it up? Or?
No, I managed to just get it to a charging station. And then did the transfer so I didn't have to pay for the electricity.
Alborz is Amish, so he doesn't have electricity in his home.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Well,
he towed it with his horse.
I don't have a charger at home. I plugged it in. And it was like 14 years later it was going to recharge. So
See, this is the problem. I've tried to explain to Alborz about the basics of electricity, and he goes, I've got three-phase power. I'm like, yes, but do you have a three-phase outlet? No.
I have a thing, a big white box thing. Like, I don't know what that does, but I plugged it in and nothing changed to a normal outlet. So I was like, well, that was pointless.
So
Anyway.
this Tesla thing actually raises a good point, and they're not the only ones that are moving up the chart. So BYD Atto 3 is the 17th highest selling car. Now, 17 might not seem like a lot, but when there's a couple of hundred options of cars, the fact that their BYD's only car is 17th, they sold 1,530 units in June, which is that's currently the
I actually
cheapest
like
car.
that car. It's a good car.
Yeah, I mean,
Cheapest
it's
they've
not
done so.
terrible, aside from the slight issue they had where it was listening to people's conversations in the car.
Josh, you sound like a Fox News reporter.
Look, it was.
It was. It was probably a software bug.
To be fair, he
Yes.
was burnt by Optus quite badly, so I guess he's living in fear a little bit.
Yes. Software bug. It's just that line of code we added.
It's like
was
the time
accidental.
that Tesla did a software update and turned off people's airbags for 24 hours before someone noticed.
Yeah,
Like no one
that's-
talks about that. You know, like and you know, like when I had my Model
That
Y,
was a software
I had
bug.
I had a software issue on my Model Y. The music wouldn't work or something was wrong, and I posted about it on Instagram. And obviously, some people from Tesla followed me. They logged into my car and fixed it without asking.
Did you try turning it off and on again?
I did
Charging it,
actually.
maybe?
And I was like, you know what? That's kind of weird. The fact that they could just log in, probably look at what I was listening to, get all the logs, and then, you know, like, why would I trust them more than I trust BYD? Like, I think they're just as bad as each other for that matter.
This is an interesting thing because I know, Paul, you just had your Raptor in getting some repairs done under warranty, and yeah, you were able to see essentially what they were doing on your phone, but like they could the theory is they can log in remotely and do that, which is, I guess, cause for concern. It's not just Teslas that can do it.
Alborz, we'll talk about it shortly, the GLC, but he somehow managed to put the key in his jacket, put it in the passenger seat, close the door.
Great jacket that I'm wearing.
Yes, yes, that's robe. So he closed the door and the car locked itself with the key inside. And the only way he was able to get back in was to get the PR manager to unlock the car remotely. So it does actually serve a purpose, but that doesn't always work, because I managed to lock a key in a BMW at the airport and I called up their customer service and they couldn't open it remotely.
Really?
Yeah.
No reception?
Well, no, they just refused to do it. So they said I had to add it to the account. I'm like, I can add it to the account, but I need to read the code out on the infotainment, which I can't access. Unless I smash the window, read the code out and go,
then get out.
Unlock it. Yeah. So, yeah.
So I guess it's coming. The ability for them to just log into your car is becoming increasingly.
Well, that's already the case.
Doesn't bother me, to be honest.
It's already the case.
Yeah.
Bothers me a little bit.
What have you got to hide?
Nothing, but that's not the point. It's that argument that people make around speeding. They're like, oh, if you don't speed, you won't get caught. And it's like, yeah, that's not the point. Like, you know what I mean?
But I prefer the convenience. I prefer
having people log into your car remotely and see where you're going.
No,
today.
not that. For me being able to log in, and by virtue of me being able to log in, other people.
It's the same reason that Apple doesn't allow any backdoor access into their phones, even for themselves, because they figure if you put it into someone.
Surely they have like a little app.
I'm the Apple marketing department here.
Yes, yes. It's called the notthebackdoor.exe.
I think it's a PC thing. I think it's not DMG.
Yeah, DMG, whatever it is. So, yeah. But look, I think that sales result is incredible, but they are a little bit cheeky with those sales numbers, because what they do is they'll dump all the stock one day and, you know, it won't actually be representative of 3 or 4 months of sales.
And that's the thing. So if we look at last month's results, from May, they did 3,178. So clearly there was an end of financial year push from Tesla to get that number up a little bit. And do you think that they are holding back on supply? Do you think it's supply clearing?
There's a new Model 3 imminent at some point in the near future, right? And then I imagine the Model Y follow next year. So I probably got some stock they want to get rid of.
Well, there's also cars coming, because my dad ordered a Model 3 and it was scheduled for delivery between June and August, and he still hasn't heard anything.
Really?
Yeah, there's a boat.
You just walk in and grab one.
Well, no, they have stacks of Model 3 and Model Y Performance. They're the cars no one's buying. They have heaps of those in inventory, but all the base models, which are eligible for the incentives, there's long waits on.
Do you have a Model Y Performance or a normal one?
Me? Yeah. Just a normal one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I just think that that's going to keep happening. The base ones will come in big shipments.
You don't need the performance. It doesn't make sense for a Model Y.
We tested the performance and it was really not great.
It had all the same
handling
problems
was terrible.
as the base Model Y did. So
it was rough.
It just needs a head-up display.
I know, that's all it needs.
All it needs.
Our actual car, because I was going to upgrade to the long range, but our car as a base Model Y has more than enough range for what we do. And because it's an LFP battery, I can charge it to 100% constantly, which gives me, theoretically, the similar range that I would get in a performance charged to 90%. So for me, it's just easy.
At the same time,
I can just get home, plug it in and never have to limit battery charge and know that it doesn't degrade the battery. So I don't see the point in upgrading. And the range, and if I need to drive further,
I'm sure your wife loves driving a Model Y.
She actually doesn't. She hates the car, but anyway. It is what it is.
Do you still have those stupid number plates?
No.
Okay.
I wasn't allowed to get those.
Just on his Raptor this time around, which you can check out on our YouTube channel. So can Tesla keep this up, do you think? Or is this just
absolutely. They will sell nothing but 3s and Ys. No one buys a Model S and X globally. And they never really did in Australia anyway before they pulled the right-hand drive vehicles. I don't think they'll sell very many Cybertrucks. Because
depending on the price, I reckon they would.
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. I think that the type of people who need a truck don't buy electric trucks.
Yeah, but the people that need a truck are not going to buy a Cybertruck.
Yeah, but you'll have a handful of those Tesla
lovers.
Yes, lovers. I was going to use another word.
Enthusiasts.
Yes, enthusiasts. That we're going to buy them, but I don't think it'll be a big seller. It will be big. It's impractical.
It won't pass any safety requirements. Like the pedestrian impact is going to be a problem.
They sell a TRX in Australia.
Yeah,
it'll be fine.
TRX isn't shaped
I'd love
like
to have
that.
one. That's actually the only Tesla I'd love to own. It's a cool car.
He thought the GWM Aura looked good.
I think it
I know
looks
he likes
great.
an MG3 if he can get his hands on one. So.
I like the MG4. I like the look of that too.
Yeah, that looks good. But
the Aura,
the Aura looks awesome. I just wish they called Aura Cat.
No,
or Good Cat.
No,
or whatever weird names they got.
No, just no cat.
Did you get that email from Specsavers the other day? You wanted to go for another eye test, mate.
Yes, clearly not. He's got that jacket on.
But yeah, so if you are looking to buy a new car, we actually have an amazing range of tools on our very big website, carexpert.com.au, that can help you out. If you want to know more, just simply Google "Help Me Car Expert" and you'll see a lovely picture of Paul, and he'll be able to help you out buying a new car, connecting you to a dealer, getting a great deal on a Tesla if that's what you're after. So we're going to move on to our last topic of the day, which is the car that we've been driving. I think everyone's had a drive of it this week. It's the GLC 300 from Mercedes-Benz. If you look at it from a casual observer point, it doesn't look like a new car. It looks fundamentally the same as the old car, but it is bigger. It has more power and a much larger price tag. Would I be correct in saying that?
Well, yes. It's larger, but not like exponentially larger. It's like
No, just 15 grand.
no. I mean the size.
Oh, right. I thought you were
Yes,
talking
it's
about
not
the
like
price
it's not like
tag.
massively larger.
I think it's 60 mil or something.
Yeah, it's not like it's mainly the
Wheelbase is
storage
slightly
is
bigger.
bigger. Like you get an extra 50 liters of storage. Plus, if you put seats down, it's larger. But the look thing, I've started to get to the point where, do you remember when Audi had this period, which I don't think it's ever finished, where all their cars looked the same?
Yeah.
Like now?
Yeah, it's been going on for like 8 years.
Well, I heard
And-
they announced a Q8 e-tron, and I saw the picture of it. I'm like, that's just an e-tron, isn't it? Like, I think they've
All
just
the e-trons
stopped
are the same car.
bothering.
Yeah.
But there was a time when I think it's Gordon, I've forgotten his last name, the head designer for Mercedes. I have a feeling his last name is Wagner, but that's a bad word these days. And he'd taken over design. He was talking about how they've got 3 design philosophies at Mercedes: sports cars, SUVs, and other stuff. I feel like that's not the case anymore. They've got one design, and everything except for the G-Wagon, some of the things just tends to look a lot similar. And that new GLC and C-Class, like when they're behind you, I don't think you can tell the difference from the ride height.
In the car park, it's very hard to tell a new
I mean, they
GLC
look
from an old one.
good, but at the same time, there's, you want to have some distinctiveness, and everything's got like AMG line standard. Like everything's got the exhausts and side vents, and it's expensive too, as you said.
I think it's like 12, 15 grand more. And I was actually thinking, I know that you're going to laugh at this, but just recently we drove that XC60, the base model, and that was brains trust. How much is the base XC60?
The one we had was 80 grand drive away.
Okay, there we go.
Right.
80 grand.
80 grand drive away. That has 48 volt mild hybrid, more or less a similar set of features. And if it didn't, you just upgrade the features if you need to. But I didn't see the $20,000, $25,000 price difference. Like I couldn't feel
Really,
a
you
$25,000
didn't notice the 3-pointed star over the Volvo badge? Is that XC60 out of Sweden or China, out of curiosity?
I think they're out of China. China?
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're comparing a
Here
non...
we go.
Where's the GLC built?
I don't know, but it's not out of China.
America, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Why
if it
would-
is. I don't know if it is. I know the old ones were.
South Africa.
Oh, well, I mean, as we know from Amarok's build quality is excellent.
We're going to have a look here.
Please hold call.
This is great.
So
We've
while
prepared
we're
so well for
checking this information out, so a couple of things about the GLC 300. There's only one spec. It is
Yes.
only the 300 currently. There might be a sporty one down the line.
No, there will definitely
There will
be a 63 and a 43.
Right, but
at
as it
some
stands, you only get the one spec, which is the 300. It comes with a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo, 190 kilowatts, 400 newton meters, but it does have a 48 volt mild hybrid system, which gives you a 200 newton meter boost in torque. Can you explain how that works, how a tiny little battery system can give that much boost?
So it uses what's called an integrated starter generator. And the way that works is, as opposed to an electric motor that sits like on a wheel or something like that, this is basically within that driveline. And the way that it works is you have a small battery. Every time you brake or slow down, it charges that battery, and that battery is able to supply additional torque to the driveline to give it that boost. But in addition to that, an integrated starter generator also makes the stop-start sequence seamless, and it allows the system to switch off at low speeds and then switch back on
I got to
imperceptibly.
say, that was actually one of my very few complaints with the car, was the start-stop system wasn't very good.
Oh, really? I loved it.
No, it took too long to restart.
What do you mean too long?
Like at the lights yesterday in Melbourne, where I was screaming at the traffic, every time they would move, when I lift off the brake to go for the accelerator, it would take like a second and a half to get going again.
No, but it's already running. You just don't
Well, it
feel
wasn't
that it's
moving when I
running.
was accelerating, so it can't be running that far.
You do drive like a taxi driver, just on, off.
I mean, I drove it about 200k to our proving ground there and back. You drove it around the proving, and I didn't notice that.
That's because you guys weren't stopping at a red light in peak hour traffic.
There are red lights. We did have to travel through some of Melbourne.
By the way, Melbourne traffic, it is the worst.
Yeah, let's not go into that one. That's a whole other podcast.
Worst.
It's almost as bad as Brisbane
It is
traffic. I
not
agree.
even comparable.
Just a very quick side story. When Alborz tried to pick me up from Brisbane, it took him about 45 minutes to
That's
move a
because
kilometre.
you booked the only hotel that was in literally traffic land.
And where are we?
Yeah, but
You tried to drive across the city at 5 p.m.
yeah, and I got there at 7.
That always goes well.
Anyway, Victoria is a cluster,
Yes.
but Brisbane
All
is just
hell
as bad.
Dan.
The GLC does have some redeeming features, though, doesn't it? So it's
actually a great car.
It handles
Yes.
really well. It's got massive, really big
285s,
wide tyres,
they're big old treads, so-
It's a properly sporty little car.
Yeah,
or big car, I should say.
I thought it was great. That's the thing. The only thing I didn't love was the price. I just thought it was a little expensive, but I thought the vehicle itself was nice.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out that it's only got one option. So everything else is standard, which is very unlike Mercedes. They were talking about how it's the first time it's got heated seats standard, which I think is ridiculous that a car that expensive wouldn't have them standard. But I think what they're trying to do is remove complexity from the model range, where they've got fewer cars that are easier to maintain, easier to sell, and you don't have to make too many decisions.
And that option pack isn't entirely
No,
necessary
you
yet.
don't need it.
You could take all
You
that
really
with
don't
digital
need
headlights, acoustic glass,
a better sound system.
and a couple of other.
Well, we had a
bits and pieces.
better active safety system. That was the only
actually,
thing
the self-steering thing, which
I thought
kind of didn't really work that well anyway.
So I would have liked to have seen that separated,
Yep.
but I think they're just keeping the complexity low.
Well, let's see. Scott, did we get a country?
Germany.
Oh, there you
Well,
go.
so
Well,
so what we-
25
no, hang
grand.
on. What were we saying before? The difficulty of producing in Australia, because high cost of labour, better quality, therefore compared to China wouldn't work. So your $80,000 Volvo from China compared to a German-made Mercedes,
You watch in 6 months, I'll switch it to China. It'll be coming out of the same
I
factory.
don't think so. I really don't think so.
One thing the GLC did have a big leg up over the Volvo was the infotainment system. So if you ignore the copious amounts of piano black in there, the new screen,
I love piano
it's
black.
curved, it's really responsive. It's got
Who is this guy?
I love piano black.
He's your
It's
mate.
glossy.
Yes, for 8 seconds after you leave the dealership.
Wash your hands.
You look at it and then
Stop.
it scratches.
This yesterday when we went to Carbon, this fat mofo was sitting there at Hungry Jack, stuffing his face
Hungry
with this
Jack? I
double
tried
whopper,
to take you to
and
a
then he
nice
gets back into
restaurant.
the car and it's just I'm just like, well, this is why piano black doesn't work for you. If you were born in Geelong and you eat Hungry Jacks in Geelong, that's what happens.
Did you order your burger with or without?
I
a
didn't
bun?
order a burger. Oh, it was very good. I had a coffee and it was horrendous.
From Hungry Jack's.
Sean, just ask him what he had for breakfast
What did you have for
yesterday.
breakfast yesterday?
Look, I was hungry and I had a Carl's Jr.
There it is.
Right. Which is
Well,
more
it's-
sophisticated than Hungry
Carl's
Jack.
is the picture of health. Yes. They're replacing Jenny Craig, I hear.
Yes.
But the infotainment system in the GLC is quite good.
Well, the new
It's-
zero-layer setup is good, but you can still switch to the old MBUX style setup.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Watch our video review, chap.
So this new one is similar to what we see in the super screens in the EQS,
Yep,
I believe.
Hyperscreen.
Hyperscreen, sorry,
Yep.
my mistake. But it's really big. It's a fantastic screen to look at. The camera quality is actually pretty good.
Functionality was a little annoying, like
Yeah,
getting
you
into
go
CarPlay,
straight
you
to
have to
CarPlay.
dive through menus. The other thing we discussed yesterday, we pulled up at the traffic lights and it's got the traffic light view. I'm like, yes, I can see that out the windscreen that I'm currently looking at.
I think that's made for when you have AR running.
Yes.
So if you were
Yeah, that kinda
projecting
makes
your like where you're supposed to go, you would put the arrows on there. So if you had nav running on its default system, not CarPlay, on its default system, it would put the arrows on there.
Yes.
It kind of works, but I mean, you'd be crazy to use its own nav when you got CarPlay.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, any car these days, as good as, I don't even know why they bother with infotainment system. Just give me a dumb terminal I can plug my phone in because your thing is crap. Doesn't
Tesla
matter.
is an exception to the rule with Google Maps. That tends to be pretty good.
Yeah, but I want Waze on the Tesla.
Yes,
that was
me
another
too.
reason why I didn't like my Model
Yeah.
Y. I couldn't get Waze to work.
Yeah, it definitely
Why doesn't it
needs
have
Waze.
CarPlay?
I know, that's 100% stupid.
It's just Elon versus the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a fight with Tim Cook as well.
I would watch
Tim
that.
Apple. Is that his name?
Did you watch that video of him waving the flag at F1?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. That was
I actually
quite
thought I'm
tragic.
going to go to Android after that. That was the most embarrassing
What
thing.
are you
It was
doing?
almost as bad as one of the Williams sisters.
It was
when
like
they
they'd
were-
hired a robot to wave the flag. He had no.
How did he not practice waving
But
the
why
flag?
not just have some like emotion on your face, like hey, or
Yeah.
he was just like,
Well, to be fair, the most arm strength he's ever had to use is going like that. So I think waving a flag was too much for
At
him.
Apple.
But yes, if you want to see and learn more about the GLC 300, you can head to the CarExpert YouTube channel, or if you're already there watching it, we'll put a link in the description for you to check out. Now, guys, before we wrap up today, is there any other final thoughts you might have? Anything you want to leave us with? Any words of wisdom?
Well, for anyone watching, shoot us a note, what's our thing? Podcast.
Your other podcast.
Yes, whoops. Podcast at carexpert.com.au. Please get in touch. Make sure you leave us a rating for this as well. And let us know your feedback too. We want to know what everyone thinks about this format, what we can change, what we can improve, because, we're here for the peeps. We want to make it as good as we possibly can. So trying this new format will hopefully,
And if you want to try something else, try Carl's Junior Burger. It's pretty good.
Not sponsored, but if you want to sponsor us, Carl's, we're happy to take your money. Anyway,
Just
boys,
not your burgers.
No. Chips are good. Alborz, Paul, thank you for joining us this week on the CarExpert podcast. And we'll see you all next week.